Am I the a-hole for calling my professor unprofessional for manipulating my timetable so I'm taught by him? I'm 18 just started at uni for the first time and it's been 2 weeks since teaching started. Our class for one of the core subjects has around 40 people, niche degree, so it's split into two tutor groups that have tutorials separately, and we all have practicals together. One group is led by the main professor who runs the practical sessions as well, he's an older guy, and the other one is led by a female grad student who also comes to the practicals and helps the professor run them too. Also, the cohort is 38 boys and 2 girls. As we were leaving our first practical this week, my course mate said something like, "Oh, I hope the grad student will run classes as well as a professor." Another mate said that he's read some of the grad student's experiment outlines and that she's really good at niche area we're interested in. Just casual talk, so as a kind of joke I replied that I hope I get put into the grad students group because she was really hot and I'd love some one-on-one sessions with her. You know, just riffing off how you can do one-on-one tutorials if you're struggling, it was a joke. I'm not saying it was a good thing to say, but you'd be lying if you didn't admit you never found someone teaching you attractive. I made sure she wasn't in earshot, but the professor was, and he gave me a kind of nasty look, which was fair, I suppose. I get home and find out to my joy I am in the grad students class, but the next day I get a notification that my timetable changed and now I'm in the class run by the professor. I assumed it was just an ordinary switch for technical reasons and didn't care, but after the first tutorial the professor asked me to stay back and told me the reason he reassigned me to his group was because of the unacceptable comments I made about the grad student. It turns out she was his student, she works in his project, and he probably felt protective of her. He started giving me a lecture about how it was completely unacceptable to make those types of comments about staff in a public teaching space. We were exiting a lecture hall. I apologized, but said he was unprofessional for switching my class just for a joke, and that the joke wasn't even that bad since she was only a few years older than us anyway. My justification is if you're a young TA teaching in a heavily male environment, you learn to ignore comments from idiotic joker blokes like us. I'm not proud of this, but I accused him of white knighting for her and that she wouldn't even have known if he hadn't told her, so he was the person who made her uncomfortable. He then said I was the one who needed to learn to behave like I'm at a reputable university, and told me that he would report me if I said anything like that in front of him again. My friends agree with me, but when I mentioned it to my sister, she took the prof's side. Which one of us is TA? The first comment is. He probably felt protective of her, I accused him of white knighting. Both these sentences explain quite clearly the type of a hole you are, and the answer is an enormous yes, you are the a-hole. I'd apologize for my long response, but you need a lesson. How have you gotten into a reputable university and still don't have the emotional intelligence to understand that the professor doing something any good boss would do isn't white knighting? I saw your comment response saying if you were in her class, you'd not make any comments but it would remain an in-joke. That's exactly why the professor was right to pull you into his class. I'm a former lecturer who has done my fair share of TAing in the past, and students in jokes of this manner are just incredibly anxiety-inducing and would get the TA into huge trouble if anyone higher up got wind of it. I was extremely uncomfortable as an older woman who is not attractive when students jokingly made the same uncreative one-on-one joke but in a demeaning manner, so I can't imagine how horrible it must be for a TA in her, I assume from your comments, mid-20s, to hear that joke made explicitly sexually about her. Just because your TA is young does not make her dating fodder, nor does it make her exempt from the fact that she is a member of staff at your university. Your professor is right that you have not got the maturity levels to be at uni and should start catching up on that. It's a university. It's very normal that TAs take classes. It's normal that some of the TAs are young, just a few years older than undergrads. That does not mean they are there to be disrespected or sexually harassed, it just means they're clever enough to teach idiots like you. Your TA is lucky to have a good advisor, if that's what you mean by her being his student. Many male advisors turn a blind eye to this kind of behavior towards their female TAs, and some are worse and replicate said behavior themselves. This man did the right thing. But if I was your professor, I'd make you drop the whole class, and you're lucky you didn't get punished further like you deserve. The second comment is. Yes, you are the a-hole. Women shouldn't have to learn to ignore inappropriate comments, and that's 100% what your comment was. And the fact that you think it's her job to ignore them as opposed to your job to stop saying them shows why the prof made the right call switching your schedule. You're definitely coming off as a creep. The third comment is. Yes, you are the a-hole. Tell us. How do you tell the difference between the idiotic joker bloke who has no real ill intentions making a joke about the hot TA and the predatory bloke who does have ill intentions making a joke about the hot TA? The answer is, you don't. Because they say the same dumbass things the first time you meet them. The way you tell if a guy who makes jokes like that is actually going to harass your TA is, he harasses your TA and then you kick him out. Good on your prof for being proactive and nipping that in the bud.